All right, founders, it is time for another pitch deck critique and review. And this time we have a jumbo edition. This is an extra large edition where I'm going to deep dive into 8 pitch decks. That's right, 8 pitch decks. And I've included the timestamps in the description of this video so you can click along and check out the ones that you want to see. We're going to see pitch decks that I've reviewed before. The founders have attempted to redo the pitch deck and see if there's been some improvements for my feedback, and then some new pitch decks. Some pitch decks will be longer because we've got more to cover, and others, we can see the issues with them right away. Before we continue, my name is Ed Kang, 7-time funded founder with 2 X's. That's just a fancy way of saying I failed a bunch of times, especially when it comes to raising pre-seed or seed funding and my pitch decks, and I use videos like this for your benefit, so you avoid some of the catastrophic mistakes that I've made. Not to say you're not going to make mistakes, but some of the pain, the heartache, I'm going to try and help you reduce that because this is hard enough as it is. And while you're there, you might as well give me a like, comment, and subscribe if you're not already subscribed to the channel. If you appreciate this type of content as much as I appreciate all the support, if you're joining me from the startups.com community, thank you so much. It's been a blast growing in this founder community with you. Let's jump into these pitch decks. The first pitch deck comes to us from Nymbus Capital. This is a resubmission. They have submitted this multiple times, and I've chosen not to review it for one main reason. It is a technical deck. Because if the deck is too technical, there's no point, if I'm not a subject matter expert, me reviewing the pitch deck, which I've sent this feedback. You're either going to simplify it so that everybody can understand, or you are going to just go get a technical expert to help you validate or invalidate this deck. It says at the bottom, AI-powered blockchain GPT platform. You've combined a lot of buzzy words here, so my expectations are going to be in that direction. Blockchain GPT and AI. GPT and AI are basically implying the same thing. GPT standing for generative pre-trained transformer. So we've got AI, blockchain, GPT. We are starting off with the problem slide. I'm glad that this is the first slide, but you will immediately see the struggles that I have. Let's read this. The $22.3 billion blockchain technology market presents technical barriers for users and institutions, including node management, data interpretation, and the demand for significant computational expertise. You're right in this area that there is a demand for expertise. Just to read this pitch deck, because I'm not an expert in blockchain. I'm not an expert in nodes or any of this technological stuff. I use blockchain and I own Bitcoin and I own Ethereum, so I'm aware of the industry, but it doesn't make sense to me because this statement is implying that I have inside and technical information of the problem, and I do not. So you've immediately lost me and pretty much any non-technical investor. Technical barriers, like I said, I have a technical barrier from understanding this deck. And then node management, I don't know what node management actually is. I know there are nodes on the blockchain. Data interpretation, what data are we talking about? And then significant computational expertise, as we mentioned. Technical challenges for users. Once again, this is very technical. So if you're going to put that out there, get a technical person to invest in your startup that would understand this deck. I'm not going to understand. We've got running nodes and servers. Okay, I guess that's servers now. Blockchain insights and data, I don't know what that would be. Computational resources, technical expertise. You basically repeated this right here. You haven't expanded and explained to me. And then we've got these sources. Am I supposed to go and look at these sources to understand? Well, I'm not going to do that. If you have not made it clear right up front, then there's no purpose in me continuing. I'm going to show you one more slide here, and then we're going to breeze through the rest to give you an idea. The solution, by integrating blockchain and AI, our service automates infrastructure oversight in-house. I don't know what that is. How is that manual to begin with? In-house? Who's in-house? Offering users hassle-free access to real-time and historical blockchain data without the need to maintain nodes. I don't have any insight or experience with this. I don't own a server. I do everything on the cloud. So again, you're talking to a very particular expert technical audience that you need to understand this. You got all these words here. Proxmox, virtual environment visualization. What is that? I don't know what that is. Linux OS, I know what that is, but I don't know what Ubuntu is. Ubuntu, is that how you pronounce that? And LLM, OpenAI, long chain frameworks or LangChain? Okay, LangChain, here we go. We have a logo, but what is that? I don't know. And so you've lost me immediately. So then we got existing AI GPT products. I didn't know there were existing AI GPT products. There's OpenAI. How does that relate to Nymbus Capital? If OpenAI is ChatGPT, that's what I know. And Nymbus Capital seems to be a blockchain management infrastructure, servers, data, technical expertise. How are you comparing these two? Next, blockchain infrastructure. We can host 50 to 100 different validator nodes. Now you've incorporated the term validator. I've heard that term in the blockchain industry, but I don't know what that means to you and the solution. Application backends, monitoring systems currently host 16 validators, our Power Edge servers, etc. So you can see how you've lost me all the way up to this point in time. So if you're going to take anything away from this deck, you have to simplify. If there is an assumption that the investor has any technical knowledge or inside information, you are going to lose them. You want to dumb this down like you're explaining this to an elementary school class at this is career day. This is how blockchain and AI work, and explain it to the investors like they're children, not making any assumptions that they'll understand it. That is the number one thing that founders do, is they think investors will understand what they're trying to solve for. Or the other mistake is they talk to everyone like they're the customer, and they think investors are going to relate to the customer, and it just doesn't happen that way. So break it down in a language that investors will understand, make it concise and very clear, and then you've got a shot of trying to get investment for a very technical solution. For all intents and purposes, this could be absolutely amazing. I could be looking at the next IBM. I don't know this. And you might be thinking, but Ed, you just don't understand our industry. You're right. I don't understand the industry. And that's what you need to take away from this pitch deck review. Next, we have Pro Aesthetics. And we have reviewed this pitch deck before. I have critiqued it and I've given the advice. And what's happened is these founders have come back and they've simplified the deck, which is really great, but they've hit a major problem. They're basically being ignored. This is the story that the founders told me. All the investors that I've talked to have said, no, I'm not even going to respond to this. And you've been ghosted by the investors. And I'm going to show you the reason why. Let's talk about the cover here right away. The Pro Aesthetics. Funding rehabilitation centers for amputees through NFTs to grant holders ownership stakes in them. Right away, I am seeing something here. Funding rehabilitation centers. So you're trying to fund rehabilitation centers, which is great. It's a worthy cause. For amputees, okay, through NFTs, now you've got a hot buzzword, to grant holders ownership and stakes in them. So basically, you're raising money to help rehabilitation centers serve amputees, and you're using NFTs. That's really what is going on here. Now, there's a major challenge with this. I'm going to read this statement right here. 90% of amputees in MENA, I don't know what that is, and that's a geographic area, lack treatment due to insufficient rehabilitation centers around regions with high demand. Now, this is a very vague, sparse problem statement, but let's just dig into it a little more. 90% of amputees. So I'm looking at the number. I don't know where MENA is. You're going to have to explain that to investors. But you've got 150,000 to 180,000 people. That's 90% of amputees. Okay, got it. Now, like I said, this is a worthy problem. I'm all about helping amputees or people who are underserved who deserve a shot. They lack the treatment with insufficient rehabilitation centers, regions with high demand. Okay, this makes sense. I'd like to see maybe a list of the regions that have the high demand, or that's my question. What is MENA? Maybe you're going to answer it that way. But then we look at the solution, and this is where we've got major problems. An NFT collection whose mint finances new rehabilitation centers in Saudi Arabia, subsequently funding additional centers across MENA. MENA. So I guess that's the region around Saudi Arabia. Holders will be stakeholders in these centers as they hold their NFTs. Pretty straightforward. You're funding rehabilitation centers and you're using NFTs, and you're saying, as long as I hold the NFT, I'm going to be a stakeholder. Pretty much, you're looking for investors. And how you're going to get investors, you're going to sell them NFTs. Why NFTs? This is the big question that I'm going to be asking. Why not just go to investors and say, hey, give me money, and I'm going to start a rehabilitation center in Saudi Arabia? It makes no sense whatsoever in terms of why. And we're talking about what's different. And I'm going to take for granted, maybe there's something special about these NFTs. They've got some functionality, but you haven't mentioned any utility whatsoever. So I've got this big question, what is different? Because I've just gone through crypto winter and a whole market completely bottoming out. Go check out OpenSea or other NFT projects that promise that we're going to be funding this, we're going to be doing that. There's community, there's utility, and nothing has happened. So pretty much you're pitching me something that was NFT 1.0, like way back in the day, and the bottom has fallen out. Investors don't trust this anymore. So now I've got a trust issue. I'm going to be asking, why you? What's different? What's going on here that I would trust you when I could probably put my money in a whole bunch of other things as an investor, and you haven't given me any novel applications or utility for these NFTs? And that's the reason investors are ignoring you. If you are going to pitch something that's already been done, you better explain why now, why is the market changing, and why you, and how are you doing things different so that it's not going to turn out like NFTs did in the past. Once again, this is a total non-starter. I'm not interested in looking at any blockchain NFT projects that tell me I can invest in a fund and I'll be a stakeholder. Been there, done that, not going to do it again. And I know I sound harsh and I always come across black and white and blunt, and I'm working on it. But you have to understand that is what the investor is thinking. Investors will literally scoff at this type of pitch deck and write you off in a moment's notice. You might get them in the front door or looking at it because it's all about rehabilitation centers and amputees in these desolate places like we talked about before, where war-torn and people need this. Okay, you got to my heartstrings. But then you pitch me basically an NFT scam. That's what it looks like. The bottom, the rug pull can easily happen. If you're going to do it, then just write a proper private placement memorandum and go raise investment. If you have expertise in that, raise investment to build rehabilitation centers. Why add NFTs? Unless you're sitting there and you're telling me there's something really unique and special about it, that's not coming through in the problem and the solution statement. It's an immediate write-off, and you'd rather hear the harsh truth from me. I say this to founders all the time. You'd rather get it black and white from me right between the eyes than shoot your shot like you've been doing and get completely ignored by investors and then go through all the psychological turmoil that you were not prepared for. So take it from me, if I say something just straightforward, black and white, it's not that I'm trying to be mean. I'm trying to help you see maybe what you don't see so that you can improve and you have a better shot of getting that investment dollar. The next one is Sevens Tree Global, a fintech project for the global financial markets. Full disclosure, I believe this is a second revision. Kudos to this founder for having the courage to send me the deck, get feedback, and then try to make something different. I do believe this deck has improved. Let's take a look inside. The problem: over 80% traders lose their entire capital under 1 year in the global financial market. So I asked this founder to define what is a trader, like a professional trader, institutional trader, or someone who's staying at home. And the founder attempted to add this here, which I appreciate. This explanation: over 50 million traders around the world, a combined total of retail, corporate, government segments involved in stocks, forex, crypto, futures, and precious metal bonds, etc. You're saying that 80% of those traders lose their money. I don't believe you, because I know for a fact when we have traders in corporate, they don't lose their money. In fact, they're the ones taking the money from the retail traders. So you've already got me thinking there's a gap here. There's some cognitive dissonance. There is friction going on. But let's go back to the original intent. Over 80% of traders lose their entire capital. All right, so let's talk about the trader that wants to be intraday, maybe saw a YouTube video, opens up an account at a brokerage somewhere and starts trading. And then you've got a few reasons. You don't have to put this in here: lack of experience, fear of losing, peer pressure, excess information, delayed action, and emotional imbalance. All of those are correct. So you could have defined this better in this main sentence, but overall, there is an improvement there. At least we're just very clear about the problem. The advice that I would give is that if you can calculate 80% into an actual number, so let's say there are 10 million traders, retail, home traders, you could say 8 million traders who trade at home will lose their entire capital this year because they lack experience, fear, pressure, lack of information, and emotional imbalances. You can put all that in one sentence and improve this. Now we've got the solution. This is an advanced, fully automated trading program, and it has all these features here. And then you explain it at the bottom: a fully automated trading program that will trade the financial market products, creating excellent profits for clients using professionally proven methods and tools. This actually is much better than this. This is a customer-based slogan. This is something you put in an ad. We are an advanced, fully automated trading program. It's just a headline or a label that you would put there. You'd rather say something like, we have created a fully automated trading program that will trade the financial market products, creating excellent profits for clients using professionally proven methods and tools. Now, here's the issue. You basically just said 80% of people who are traders lose their money. So how is this solving that problem? You basically have to try and figure out and explain how you've increased the success rate. So have you knocked down the failure rate to a certain percent? Have you made traders better by using these tools? If so, by how much? That would make this statement a lot better, because if you just say this is our opinion that we're going to have excellent profits, then I'm going to say, well, it's your opinion. How have you proven this? And now you've created friction and a little bit of doubt. You got way too much information here. If you just adjusted this sentence a little better and addressed the 80%, this would be a much better solution. The vision, you don't need to have this vision slide. Investors do not care at this point in time. If you're going to put the vision anywhere, put it on the last slide with your contact information and say, join us to create time freedom with financial freedom, creating 50% year over year, restricting the risk factors under 10%. Now you've added some details here, just as I'm reading it. Why isn't that in the solution statement? That you can restrict the risk factors and reduce them to less than 10%. You see, these are the facts that I'm looking for, but you've made it into a vision statement, which is kind of like really wishful thinking, but I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. And let's continue. Phase 1, fintech as a service. As I said this before, inside information. What is fintech as a service? Automated trading algo, I'm thinking that's algorithm, that's 60% AI. Why do I care about that? Live command center, what is that? Virtual private server, what is that? MetaTrader platform, what is that? Offering the program as service to the client segments, governments, family offices, private equity, hedge funds, pension funds, wealth funds, and accredited investors. Immediately, I'm thinking to myself, there's no way that you're selling to all these companies. There's no way that your market is so wide. You sell to everyone, you sell to no one. I'd rather see you focus. But like I said, I'm just telling you what goes through my mind when I read things like this. Now we go to phase 2, fintech as a product. Okay, wait a sec. So now I'm going to go back to the previous slide, which investors will not do because you've lost them already. But it says fintech as a service and then fintech as a product. Isn't a service a product? Isn't fintech the product? Or is fintech the service? I don't understand. Automated trading algorithm, 90%. So you've gone from 60 to 90%. What does that mean? Multiple financial instruments. I don't know what that means. Advanced live command center. What does that mean? Virtual private server. What does that mean to me? All trading platforms, no idea. So I guess before MetaTrader is a trading platform. Now that I say it, I think I've heard it before. Now all trading platforms, you've lost me. So this deck is just way too technical and it's using buzzy words that I do not understand. Now you got a product validation slide. You say deeply back tested on 15 years of market data. Okay. 4 years of live market environment with real funds through regulated liquidity provider. I don't know what a liquidity provider is. Monitor market performance over the years. So 2021, 74%. What does that mean? 74% accuracy, 74% return, 74% what exactly? 74% of people didn't lose their money, or did they lose their money? Now I know I'm being facetious by this point in time, but you can see where my mind is going. And then you got all these logos in the bottom, Match Trade Technologies, Match Prime, MetaTrader, Think Huge. No idea what those are. If you're implying that I should know what they are, well, then I'm the wrong investor for you. And maybe you're at the point where you can only get investors who understand this. And that's very possible. But the regular investor, you've lost me. Market size. This is top-down market analysis. I asked for you to break it down. Remember, market sizing is how many potential users times what you think you make. That's your total addressable market. Revenue model, you're going to, in phase 1, market spread. What does that mean? Management fee. Okay, I kind of understand. Give me some numbers here. You say at the bottom, market spread, $27 per contract for every trade token. Again, I don't understand. I'd much rather you say we're going to charge a fee every time there's a trade of X dollars to X dollars. Maybe something like that. Competition slide. You haven't mentioned any competitors. I don't see any competitors listed here. I don't see a magic quadrant. So I don't know what this competition analysis is supposed to point me to. You're making an argument, why us? But the competition slide should be why us compared to the competitors. What makes us different and why are we doing things better or different? For example, statements such as you have a vision with multiple phases of growth planned for 8 years. So does every other competitor. What are you saying that's different? That's where I'm going to stop this one. Again, this deck has made the cardinal sin, broken the rule, assuming investors have technical information. Now, if you're going to be pitching this to investors who are seasoned traders, maybe you got a whole bunch of traders out there who've made billions of dollars trading, and they start off and they lost all their money at first and they know the pain. Now, do you see the issue I just created there? If an investor has made billions of dollars, they have to have experienced the pain and they want to invest in that. So unless this is a B2B, very institutional play where you can show track record, which you have not done, you haven't given me any data that this is going to be any better than the market, then you have the issue of trying to reach way too many people. And as I always say, you try and sell to everyone, you sell to no one. Investors want to know that you can establish a beachhead, dominate one user niche, and then expand from there. That's the reason they call it land and expand, or the beachhead. Which beach are you going to take? Establish a fortification, bunker yourself in, competitive moats, competitive advantages, and then expand into more lucrative markets. And the reason I know this deck looks this way is because the founders, if you go to the team slide, which I'm not going to show, have domain expertise in these markets, but basically are cramming all their head knowledge into a pitch deck. And that's why one of my colleagues, Greg Welch, who I interviewed on the Startups.com channel, said that founders should not be in charge of their pitch deck alone. It's kind of like a bad movie director writing a movie script. And the movie is bad because the director is writing it at the same time. They're in their own head. I think of Zack Snyder. You might have seen the latest movies, Rebel Moon on Netflix, and I'm being a total nerd and geeking out here, but Zack Snyder should not write his own movies. He should have professional writers that he can trust, and they should trust him to be the director, and then go get the writer. It's the same thing, I believe, about pitch decks. Founders should not do pitch decks in their own bubble, and you should be getting help. So this pitch deck here, I'm clear that you have not gotten the mom test done on it. You have not gotten other people who don't have inside knowledge in the industry looking at this pitch deck. So there are things you don't know, and you've got so many blind spots in this pitch deck. Go back, redo it, break it down, make it simple so that anybody can understand. Here's a pitch deck from ResQ-X. This is another redo. Roadside assistance in Nigeria. There's one thing that's greatly improved here, but overall, it's still very confusing. Let's break this down. Here's the problem slide. There are 20 million vehicles in Nigeria, and more than 50% of them break down annually. Nigeria's roadside assistance is plagued by prolonged wait times, high costs, lack of time, limited availability, outdated technology. Let me make this super simple. If you've got 20 million vehicles in Nigeria and 50% of them break down, you can basically say 10 million vehicles in Nigeria will break down. And these drivers will suffer from roadside assistance that takes way too long, waiting 3 to 5 hours for help, costs way too much money, there's no trust, and there's only limited availability. That's pretty much all you have to say. It's painful for your vehicle to break down on the side of the road, and make it very explicit right here. So let's summarize, and let me try to wordsmith this again. 10 million vehicles will break down in Nigeria, and roadside assistance will be painfully slow, cost way too much money, be untrustworthy, and have limited availability because only 20% of breakdowns receive timely assistance. Something like that. You got to put it in one sentence without having all these points in this. You repeated this information and you made it redundant, and you created more friction in this problem slide than you really need. Our solution, same thing. We've got all these bullet points. Put it into one sentence, please. Let's give it a shot. ResQ-X revolutionizes roadside assistance in Nigeria by bullet, 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 bullet. Okay. Get rid of all the floofy, jargony buzzwords like revolutionize. And let's just solve the problem. ResQ-X is a lightning fast and affordable roadside assistance program that gets you in 15 minutes or less, has 24/7 availability and transparent pricing. You see how I just made up one sentence from all of this in one shot? Just put one sentence right up the top here, and you might have some bullets like 24/7. Or 15 minutes, something like that. But you can get all of this into one sentence. Now, here's how it works. You've got request the app. There's real-time tracking. First responder arrives on bikes, on-site repair or towing, feedback, and continuous improvement. Great. So this is very simple and straightforward. Now we get to the market size. Thank you very much for doing a bottom-up analysis. You basically calculated 20 million vehicles, and they're all paying you $90 each for your membership. Got it. And then you got your SAM, where you're saying we're going to start off in the geographic area of Lagos, which is a great way to look at your SAM. 6 million vehicles times $90 is $540 million. Fantastic. Good job on fixing this market analysis slide. Now we have the business model, subscription plans. I like the way that you've broken this down, but you haven't given me numbers to back it up. You just said in your previous market slide that you're charging $90 a pop. We'll put that in there. Pay-per-use. Explain how you are going to charge pay-per-use, what that might look like, B2B partnerships, etc. Give me a little more detail and make us understand how you're going to make money. But overall, that slide is heading in the right direction. Go to market. This is way too confusing for me. I'd much rather see 1 point in each of these. I'm just going to ignore this right now and take for granted that you know what you're going to do. Go to market. There's enough detail in there. Competition. I like the fact that you took out guarantee. If any of you remember this slide deck before, there was a guarantee, and I was incredulous. How are you going to guarantee this? You got key takeaways. There's way too much information, on this. This is what I like. I like the fact that it says response time. You're under 15 minutes, and this is 1 hour, and this varies. This is actually really good because it sets you apart, and it's better than just XXX all over the place. This is great. These are subjective. Customer service and quality, high, moderate, varies. I don't know. That is so subjective. Don't put those in there. So get rid of this. And transparent pricing, I like this. if you can actually prove that they don't have transparent pricing, this is a different thing that you can put out there. Geolocation enabled, I don't know what that means. That's inside information that requires me to have technical knowledge. Motorbikes or first responders. You might as well say something to the effect of AA Rescue uses tow trucks, and they get there in an hour or 2 hours or 4 hours. But ResQ-X, we use motorbikes, and there are first responders, and that's what's different. That's something that would be compelling. But I like the fact that you actually explained to me how we are going to get people there to the site of the car in 15 minutes. You're going to use motorbikes. And I dig that. And I get that. I've seen that in China where they're zipping around on motorbikes all over the place and they're just cutting through traffic. We'll get to you in 15 minutes. But what does that mean? What does the first responder do on the motorbike? Explain that to me. It probably goes back to the how it works slide, but you've differentiated yourself, a big differentiator, in fact. And I like that. Now we got the team slide. You know what I like about this team slide? You've got really strong bullet points, much improved. 10 years experience as software engineers. You've got the technical expertise. You're showing leadership, management. And you've got this, I'm a car owner. Okay, I can understand this. So that you've got previous experience with the pain. It's kind of cute, not necessary, but you've got also great advisors with 10 years experience and 8 years head technician at JD Autos. I really like that. So congratulations. And then we got the traction. We got the 230 sign up on the waiting list. We got MVP created. What does that mean? Explain to me what your MVP has created and done. LOIs from 8 businesses. What businesses are those? I don't understand. If you got people on the sign-up list who are drivers, what are these businesses? Explain this a little better. And then also it would help if you showed a little bit of growth. How many people are on the waiting list, but also how many people are being added to the waiting list every single time to show that you're continuing to execute and get traction ahead of the investment. Phased expansion approach, this really means nothing as far as a screener deck. Use this in due diligence. And the ask, you're asking $500,000 to expand ResQ-X's coverage in Lagos and Impact by 2025. Not a bad slide. I like the fact that you've gotten things broken down and you've created the raising X to get to Y milestone by Z timeframe. I can appreciate that. So I know you've taken this advice. So overall for ResQ-X, second time around, much improved, but you want to keep honing things down. Make everything simpler. All the raw material is there. All the stuff that you need to show that you're different, you've added in there with the first responders and the motorcycles. You need to explain that, how that's different. That could be your single biggest differentiator. Explain how it makes the product better and keep working away at this pitch deck. It is improving and you definitely have an idea there. Plus, I need more details in terms of how far along are you, how are you growing, and what's your MVP looking like right now, so that investors can understand you've got something that's working in the marketplace, or is it just about to go there, or is your MVP something that's been validated, such as you've got a landing page, is the app ready to go? Like, explain that to me, and I think you've got those missing pieces. Very close. I encourage you. Thanks for being courageous and sending this in for multiple rounds and letting me get a little harsher every single time to really hammer the key points in there and make sure this deck becomes as good as it could be to reflect the fantastic team and a great idea. Keep going. Now we've got Integra, fruits and vegetables, international supply chain platform. All right, so now we are in ag tech or food tech or distribution tech marketplace. But I understand fruits and vegetables and international supply chain. So logistics maybe. Let's continue looking. Currently, procurement channels for supermarket buyers lack direct, convenient access to producers based in Mexico, despite small and medium-sized farmers constituting approximately 70% of the United States imports in 2022. This kind of makes sense, but I'm not a food procurement person. I don't understand grocery supply chain, so you've kind of lost me. I'm just going to be straightforward here. And I know this founder's tried to explain it to me multiple times. You might as well just show this to people who have expertise in the industry. Or if you're going to explain this to someone like me, say something like X% of imports come from small and medium-sized farms in Mexico, but grocery stores or supermarkets have to buy from big supply chains, which creates inefficiencies or loss of profit or something like that for the farmers. I don't know where to go with this because I'm kind of lost. It kind of is on the edge of my brain, but I'm not really getting it. And I'll just be straightforward. When I don't get something, I'm going to say I don't get it, and I probably lost interest at this moment in time. But let's continue. I'm going to take away from this that the real problem is that supermarkets need to buy directly from farmers for one reason or another, especially these small to medium-sized farms, but it's not happening because of one issue or another. I don't know how I did. The founder might be totally frustrated with me, saying, Ed, you don't get it. But as I always say, of course I don't get it because I don't understand. Help me by fixing this problem slide. Next, we are a web platform connecting supermarket buyers with Mexican farmers. I don't understand what you mean by connecting. Is this distribution? Can the supermarket buy directly from the Mexican farmer, or do I just know where they're coming from? Can we talk? Give me a little more information. I like the fact that it's sparse and simple, but it's too sparse and too simple. This is why explaining the pain and then reverse engineering or solving the pain point by point, as I always say, if a problem is manual and slow and expensive, then the solution needs to be automated, fast, and cheap, right? So work backwards from the problem and explain me how this web platform solves those issues. Now we got a TAM. So 70% of USA imports small and medium farmers, just Mexico. So 70% of US imports come from small and medium farmers just in Mexico. And then you got a reachable market and available operations. I don't understand how you broke down your TAM, SAM, SOM. As I always say, TAM is the total number of potential customers or total number of business transactions that you could be doing and how much money you'd make. SAM is the segment that fits your business model, and SOM is what you realistically could make. You're not giving me any indication of how the math works. I don't need you to explain to me in total detail and give me a chart and numbers and formulas, but I do need you to explain all the key terms and how you came to the calculation. Then you got this market validation and why now. Now let me point something out. This is really important. Why now slides with charts like this are only effective unless there is a dramatic shift in the market that the investor did not know. And there's an insight that the founder is providing. This is not helping me. Basically, you're saying this market's just kind of steadily growing. Great. There's no indication that there's a why now, big, huge opportunity going on. And then you've got entrepreneurs in Mexico are more familiar with technology and nearshoring opportunities. Okay, that's your opinion. That's not fact. You have not shown me an inflection point in the marketplace. If you would have shown me that year over year or just year over year from last year, 80% of Mexican farmers started using SaaS platforms. Okay, that's an interesting thing because now you're saying the market has an opportunity, but right now you're not giving me any fact. You're giving me opinion, and investors don't work or invest off opinions. They invest off facts. Transaction fees. So you're charging 6% or 3,000, whichever is greater. Market annual prepaid services, $1 million plan, $5 million plan, $10 million plan. I don't understand. So they're prepaying for vegetables and fruits. If I'm a supermarket, does that mean I prepay you $1 million for this? That sounds pretty far-fetched, but maybe you can say that's going to be our pricing in the future. Not exactly sure. Then you got customers see customized offers. Now I don't understand. Do the customers order directly? Why are the customers seeing customized offers? What is a customized offer? This is where a how it works slide would really help. Give me an understanding of how we go from farmer to grocery store to the supermarket. We call them grocery stores up here. You might say supermarket in other places. And then customers see the customized offers. What do they see? And can they interact? What's going on? And then secure it. I don't understand. Download manifest. Are you saying it's transparent? Customers can see all the shipping that occurs. Do marketplaces, supermarkets, grocery stores even want customers to see that? There's so many gaps here I don't understand. Through strategic partnerships with packaging companies, we curate personalized offerings for supermarket chains, optimizing their supply chain efficiency. This is where I have a huge problem. This was my initial response to this deck. I don't understand how you're going to be able to pull this off. You're basically saying we have strategic partnerships. Okay, for what? Like, how long have these partnerships been in place? Or how are you going to give me confidence that you can even get this partnership going on? Because if you're shipping fruits and vegetables from small to medium farmers, that's a huge logistics problem to supermarkets. How are you going to get those supermarkets to pay attention? Are these big supermarkets like chain supermarkets or these little mom and pop shops who sell at farmers markets? You see how I'm starting to think of all these different things. And again, I'm probably frustrating you like crazy. And you're saying, Ed, you don't get it. I don't get it because it's not clear. Now, this is very confusing. So I'm going to look at Seattle, Washington, box per truck. So 1,080 boxes went into this truck, and we're going to Seattle, Washington, and the product is limes, okay? The average market price is $37.11 per box. You see how much time it's taking me to just break this down and understand and look through this. So you've lost me already, but let's keep going here, okay? We have 36 Integra price calculator per box. Logistics from McAllen, Texas to Seattle, Washington. I really don't understand what's going on here, and I don't think any other investor is going to understand either. Then we have this slide, $38,880, and that's the same as this one, or is this the total? I don't get it. Then you've got the difference. You've got competitors. Now, here's the thing. You got overcomplicated and accessible. That's your opinion. It's not facts. You're not giving me dimensions that differentiate you. And you got expensive and affordable by how much? And on top of which, how are you different? If you're going to use a magic quadrant, I want to know how you are different from Affordable, Eve Harvest Hub, Grub Market, and McLean, but you're up here. Normally, the magic quadrant really shows your differentiator somehow. So you got expensive and accessible. These are pretty much the same thing. If it's expensive, it's not accessible. And then you got Cisco, and I don't have any explanation. I don't understand. But you've got overcomplicated avocados. Mexico, are these the ones selling directly? You see how these dimensions are not working for me, and I do not understand how you are different from your competitors based on this slide. Competitive advantages, simplified, that's just your opinion. Predictive models, okay, maybe that's something there. And then geography, easy access to USA and Canada. I don't understand how it's easier than your competitors. Doesn't everybody have the same access? Now we have your founding team, and you clearly have expertise in the industry. And I think that's working against you because you have so much knowledge on the inside. You haven't been able to explain the business model. I'm going to take for granted. I'm just going to assume and give you the benefit of the doubt that you got all this worked out in your head. I don't know how it works. And then you've got your other co-founder who's got international trade experience, which is fantastic. 20 years in international trade, 2 IPOs in Mexico. That looks really good. This is a solid team so far. Now it gets even better because you got technical people. You got a head programmer, fantastic, 10 years experience. And you got an algorithm designer, fantastic. So I believe that you can code this in-house. Now we get to traction. So you've got an allied producer company supplier, alpha test agreed. What does that mean? You've actually shipped 25 trucks per week. They accepted to sell their product through the platform. Because I don't understand how the platform works, I don't know if this is traction or not. You got Bastion Fruits, producer company, 10 trucks per week. They also accepted to sell the product through the platform. I don't understand what that looks like. Maybe if you showed how it traditionally works and how you ship fruit from Invera Fruit and Bastion Fruits. Maybe if you did that, that's something that has to be simplified down. I don't know how you're going to do it, but give it a shot. Roadmap, not really interested in the roadmap, but that's fine. You can have that in there if that's what you think is going to be important. I'd probably put this somewhere in the ask section or leave this for due diligence. And then you're looking for 12 months financing to reach 150 transactions with Integra. I appreciate that you put some milestones and timeframes on this. You need pre-seed funding opportunity and then operations with Integra revenue over 12 months. So you're saying that $150,000 is what you're looking to get, and you're going to make $450,000. This is where I get a little incredulous. You are telling me 150K is going to develop algorithms and everything like that for you to make 450K? Well, that's absolutely fantastic if you can pull that off. But I don't believe if you're developing algorithms, you need all these platforms for shipping and all these relationships to get into these partnerships and get all those fruits and veggies across the border. 150K is not going to cut it. Better really explain how this is going to work. And if you did that properly and a lot more concisely at the beginning of pitch deck, maybe I could start to understand where you're going to use your funding. One more time, if you've been watching all my pitch deck reviews in this deep dive, you're starting to see that things are not clear when the founder has everything in their head and they try and put it in a pitch deck and they don't check with other people and have other individuals who don't have inside knowledge or expertise understand and give feedback on a pitch deck. One of the pro tips that I often do is I will sit a founder down and I will put a whiteboard in front of them. I'll say, explain to me exactly how it normally works and where the problems are, where we're going to lose money or where there's pain and gnashing of teeth and heartache, and show me how the solution works step by step and why it's better. And then we'll figure out how to explain it in words that everybody else can understand. If the founder can pitch it to me verbally, step by step, which is a few bubble drawings on a whiteboard, then we stand a chance in simplifying the language for the pitch deck. Problem occurs with problem statements, solution statements, and everything else in the pitch deck is that a founder sits there and starts typing in between them and their computer, and they're living in their own bubble, and everything makes sense in your own mind because you have all the vocabulary, you have all the industry expertise. Clearly, as we've seen with this startup, just like the other startups, we've got domain experts creating solutions and understanding the problem, but the investor does not. If you assume the investor does understand the problem, then you are going to be so far out there with your pitch deck, it's not going to make any sense. You will not be effective. You will not raise money. So please listen to what I have to say and continue to simplify things down and break it down into step-by-step so I understand how you're even going to pull this off. Now I'm going to show you another pitch deck that falls in the same problems as all these other pitch decks, but it's much worse. Compounded by the fact that this founder has sent me multiple pitch decks and tried over and over again. And I really want the founder to to hear this. We're in the same industry as far as organic nutrition, consistency, fruits and veggies, food, rooftop farming. All right, I like the term rooftop farming, which is very cool. Moving to the problem slide. 10 million babies are born in urban India annually. In one city, 11,000 women are high risk due to nutritional issues by doctors in the state directory. Pick me. There's your problem statement. So much inside information. How does rooftop farming have to do with 10 million babies? We've got 11,000 women are high risk. So now this problem statement is leading me to a solution for unhealthy babies and at-risk mothers. You see where my mind is going here. When you start off with a problem statement like this, that's where my mind is going to go. Now, I already have cognitive dissonance because we went from organic nutrition and things such as rooftop farming. So now I have to work. The investor has to think, all right, so we're pretty much going to give these 10 million babies healthy, nutritional, organic stuff from rooftop farms. Well, let's see if that works. You see how there's way too much information on this problem slide that you've lost me. Not to mention the fact that if I did read the rest of this pitch deck, you're going to say lack of nutrition causes pregnancy issues in childbirth, child growth. So you're saying lack of nutrition. So you got supplements, they're not going to work, and you got all these other issues. Then why are you telling me that 10 million babies are born? Just tell me how many babies are suffering with this, how many mothers are suffering with this. And this better be a solution for babies and mothers. That's all I got to say. So here's our solution statement. JSR Urban Farming uses CEA to produce eggs. What's CEA? To produce eggs, microgreens, leafy greens, and fish with the right consistent nutrition values backed by lab findings for pregnant women. Okay. Our digital health AI-powered platform, now we're AI washing everything, helps to achieve fitness goals with nutrition plans to stay motivated. Okay, so now we're delivering fitness goals. What does that have to do with rooftop farming? Okay, and stay motivated. It's a motivational app now, and we deliver products to your doorstep. So here's what I'm going to put together, and already I'm doing way too much work, but I'm doing this to give the founder the benefit of the doubt. You're saying that there are all these babies and mothers who lack nutrition, and your solution is to use farming, rooftop farming, from what I can understand, to create healthy sources of fruits and vegetables and deliver them straight to the mother's doorstep. How does that have to do with fitness goals and nutrition plans? Can't they just eat the fruits and vegetables? You've expanded the solution to add AI-powered, buzzy, all that stuff. I don't think you need to do that. Just be straightforward. If the problem is unhealthy babies, bad nutrition with at-risk moms, then get the good nutrition to the unhealthy babies and the at-risk moms right to their doorstep. And let me pause here for a moment so other founders can learn from this. And let me just say, even though I'm sounding harsh like I normally do, I repeat this over and over again, you'd rather get it right straight to the gut, a gut punch from me, than show investors and get ignored and start to feel deflated and go through the emotional roller coaster. I'm going to make a comment about this deck. My assumption, my suspicion, that's a better word, is that this is a solution looking for a problem. Your solution was rooftop farming for healthy vegetables. Then you want to look for a problem that this could solve, and then you conflate the two, and now things are totally confusing. Now you're adding things like apps and nutrition plans and keeping mothers motivated. If that really was the problem that you were going to solve, I can think of dozens of better ways to solve that problem. I'm just going to be straightforward. I could think of ways where you run around, drive around, and you pick up and you buy those healthy vegetables, and you buy all the nutrition stuff, the supplements and the vitamins, and you deliver these packages, and you have an app that shows moms how they should be taking care of their kids. Think about it for a second. If that's really the problem I want to solve, you're going to come up with some really great solutions. But instead, you're shoehorning the solution into a problem. It does not make sense. What I'd rather see is that there are not enough vegetables in India. There are not enough healthy fruits and vegetables, there's enough farm space, farming land is bad, and people need this. So we've created a cool way to grow all this stuff on people's roofs because there's so many extra roofs in India that you solve this problem. Isn't that better, right? That's just straightforward. So figure out the problem you want to solve. I don't think moms and kids are it in this one, and I'm sure many people who are going to be watching this agree. And I'm pretty sure if I show this to my investment committee and my colleagues in VC or who are investors, they're going to think the exact same thing. But don't just take my word for it. Show it to other people and ask the same questions that I'm asking, and you're probably going to get validation. Let's do this one thing here in this deck and go through the rest of the deck and see if there's any evidence that there is a unique solution to the problem of moms and kids not having healthy nutrition. I think the chances are going to be pretty slim, but I hope I'm wrong. So we got competitors, regular farming, vertical hydro farms, fish farming, middlemen, and local presence. Here we go. Right away, this has proven my point. I'm going to go back and pause this. Immediately on the next slide, there's no mention of competitors trying to help at-risk kids and moms with their nutrition. You see, I've just been vindicated, if you will, in case everyone's saying, Ed, you're just making assumptions and you're just being crabby and you're just being negative about this whole thing. I can see these things a mile away. Remember, I have the benefit of seeing literally dozens of pitch decks per week. I literally work on a pitch deck every single day through startups.com, helping our founders in the accelerator program to get all these things right. So I can see these patterns of these pitch decks. And that's the reason I get very emphatic and I get intense and passionate about trying to help you with all this free information that I put on YouTube so that you learn how to do your pitch decks. The number one issue that has caused a derailing of this pitch deck is you are a solution looking for a problem. Go back right to the drawing board and figure it out from scratch, starting with the problem. Now we've got Croak.ai. We are bringing AI to the core of business productivity communication. I like the fact that I understand it's about AI, business productivity communication. This statement is a little jargony, but sounds like a purpose statement. I'm going to let it slide. I kind of dig it. The problem, this is one of the better pitch decks that I got recently. For over 1 million companies using Teams, Slack, Zoom, knowledge is lost just one day after getting communicated. This results in 24 billion hours lost in redundant meetings, bloated bureaucracies, and employees lost and unproductive in their companies. I really like the spirit of this problem statement, but let's try and improve it. For how many companies? I know there are stats out there where we can figure out how many companies that use Teams, Slack, and Zoom. I would rather you say something such as messaging apps like Teams, Slack, and Zoom to not infer or assume that the investor has experience. But Teams, Slack, and Zoom are ubiquitous enough that I think it will go easier, and you can mention them if you just say messaging platforms like Teams, Slack, and Zoom. Knowledge is lost just one day after getting communicated because of the nature. Explain, because of the nature of how these work, more messages will come in and it'll be lost one day after communication. This results in 24 billion hours. All right, this is an incredulous number. You better back it up. Lost in redundant meetings, bloated bureaucracies, employees lost in unproductive companies. You can simplify this down. Bloated bureaucracies, this is a buzz term. I'm going to take this out because this is your opinion. Bloated bureaucracies. You have not quantified what bloated bureaucracy means, but you can calculate 24 billion lost hours of productivity in their companies. You can also look at how that calculates into dollars and cents. There is information out there that you can quantify all this. But generally speaking, this problem statement is headed in the right direction. Solution. Croak is a B2B communication app like Microsoft Teams, combining live messaging, video meetings, but with powerful AI assistant. Unlike companies, we hyper-focus on storing communication data for AI access, enabling us to have our AI questions answered. Was Nick involved with any engineering discussions last week? You've just established that we are talking about Teams, Slack, and Zoom, so you can pretty much take out Microsoft Teams. Croak is a B2B communication app that combines live messaging and video meetings, but with powerful AI assistant. Take out powerful, you don't need that. That's marketing. With an AI assistant that allows you to search and ask questions such as, was Nick involved with any engineering discussions last week? You don't have to put these statements in. We hyper-focus on storing communication data for access. All right, I understand. I'm going to take that for granted. Just say it stores communication data for AI access to answer questions such as, was Nick involved in engineering discussions last week? Now, key is you have said in the problem statement that there's a productivity issue. If there's a productivity issue, explain the productivity solution. Say that it helps with productivity because it answers these questions. Or you can go back and refer to past data a lot quicker, saving lost productive hours. Now, let me pause this for a moment, because this deck is pretty good, but I'm just going to give you insight as to what an investor's thinking right away. Teams, Zoom, and Slack are pretty much ubiquitous. There's a reason that they're all being consolidated by these huge, massive players, such as Microsoft started with Teams and is integrating it with Office 365 and now ChatGPT and Copilot. All those things are coming together and creating these really, really huge incumbents that are entrenched. I personally use Slack, but clients force me to use Teams. I also use Zoom. I like Zoom, but clients force me to use Google Meet and other Teams type products for the video conferencing. They are all over the place. So immediately what I'm thinking when I read this is, how are you going to get companies to adopt a new messaging platform? Just because there's AI in there doesn't make it any different, because that is a great idea. Hear me out for a second. Everyone has this pain point because you got this wall of text that keeps getting updated and you lose it one day after. So people are saying, gosh, I don't want to have to scroll through my Slack, which I have to do. I have that pain point. It'd be really nice if I could ask an AI, did this happen? Can I get access to the information? Great idea. You don't think Microsoft and Slack and Zoom and other companies think it's a great idea as well? And you don't think that they've got $300 million, $1 billion to throw at the problem? They do. So immediately in my mind, I am a little incredulous. There's doubt that creeps in that makes me think you're not going to be able to pull this off because you haven't told me anything different than what is a great idea out there in the marketplace. I'm going to look through the rest of this pitch deck. Truth is, I already have, but we're going to show this to you so that you understand what goes through my mind as an investor as I'm looking at this. Right now, the chips are stacked against you. There's some friction going on. This is going to be a tough sell, but let's give it the benefit of the doubt like I always try to do and take a look at the rest of this deck. So immediately we got the team slide, and this really should go near the end. I appreciate that you've been childhood friends for 12 years. We don't need to see this whatsoever. Investors don't care. Computer science grads at UCF. Okay, you are technical. Serial builders, last built and launched. Mark me here in 3 months. Okay, so you've worked together, which is great. Like I said, put this team slide later on in the deck. I've got questions. Really, it should go problem solution market unless you got massive traction. And there's a reason to put this earlier. Speaking of traction, you got this story. Since January 2024, we have been working day and night on Croak. That's not traction, all right? I appreciate that you've done that. I don't need to see that. That's not going to move the needle. Using our live messaging and AI assistant we built, we proved that our data storage conjecture works, and now we have the most powerful AI communication assistant that we've seen. This is your opinion. This is a hyperbolic statement. I appreciate that you're young and full of lots of energy. But saying you've got the most powerful AI communication assistant that we've seen, I'm just going to say that's pretty much ChatGPT combined with Copilot and Teams. That's the most powerful communication assistant that I've seen and that I've experienced. I appreciate that you've gotten something to work, but traction is not your opinion. Traction has to do with user validation. So if you told me that your entire school started using it and they have been uninstalling Teams, uninstalling Slack, well, then that's traction. But this is not traction. So you want to avoid hyperbolic slides like this because you're not going to be taken seriously as you should be. Why now? This is a slide that doesn't show me any major inflection point. You say between 71% of employers embrace hybrid schedules, and there's a 66% increase in employee productivity from AI. There's much more strain on communication tools while they haven't received productivity boosts from AI. That's a very confusing statement. Teams has 85% current market share. Yeah, ubiquitous. Due in large part to being bundled with Office 365. How are you going to beat that competition? I'm going, yeah, that's pretty much in my mind what's happening. However, April 1st, 2024, Reuters report Microsoft will decouple Teams from Microsoft 365. That still makes 365 ubiquitous as well as Teams ubiquitous if they're decoupled because of antitrust. They basically create a monopoly. It still doesn't explain to me how you are going to penetrate that market. Key competition, you've only listed one competitor. Key competitor is Slack, and then Croak, it's different. You're not explaining to me anything different here than what is a good idea to the rest of the marketplace. Business model, $40 a month per user. That's very steep. Slack is free, at least for the entry version. Microsoft Teams is free if you got a Microsoft 365 account. What makes me want to spend $40 a month per user? You haven't shown me a 10x return. So far, this is not a 10x idea that I think you can pull off. Market potential, 453 million users globally, 40 month. I appreciate that you did a bottom-up analysis and you're showing me case studies of Slack. Pause for a moment. Telling me how Slack did it does not bode well for you. If Slack did it, then Slack has already done it. Slack was amazing. Have you looked at Slack and how they engineered their go-to-market strategy, how they cared so much about customer service, and how they penetrated a market that nobody thought they could get into? Slack, total geniuses in what they did. They had an amazing team, and they slipped right in. That is not going to be done the same way again. You are not going to replicate Slack unless you are different than Slack, and I haven't seen anything in terms of go-to-market strategy or what is going to be different. I'm looking for something different. Why you? Why now? What's different? Answer those questions in your deck. Go back to your MVP and engineer that in there. Let's keep looking. You need $1 million pre-seed for 2 years of runway with 3 months buffer. So you're basically saying you need $1 million for 2 years. You need $1 million to pay your bills and to be employed for 2 years. You haven't explained to me what this $1 million is for. What are you going to be doing? You say, although both founders are technical, we need a little more engineering help, especially with a mobile app. We also need sales and marketing support to launch the product in Q1 2025. What is the sales and marketing plan? What's the go-to-market strategy? I am going to predict that if I give you $1 million, you build an app and you'd be focused on that, and then it would go out there and nobody would download it. And that's $1 million risk that can't be possibly sane from an investor standpoint. You're going to pay yourself each $100,000 each. You're going to pay 2 engineers $240,000 each. Sales and marketing, you haven't explained a proper use of funds that makes an investor believe you. Let me give some advice to these founders, 2 young guys in college who are hacking away, hackers, and they figured out how to make something work. That's cool. That's your strength. Now make it a novel widget that has a use case that shows how some people are going to use it more than they use Slack or Zoom. You do not have founder market fit. You're new graduates. You don't know what it's like to work in enterprise. You don't know what it's like to be a CTO, COO, or a CEO or some executive that relies on Slack and all these tools out there and has the problem. You correctly identified that there's a problem, but you have not understood the scope, size, severity of the problem, and you don't understand the market. You don't understand all the things that the incumbents, the ones that are come eat your lunch, the competitors, how they've entrenched themselves, and you haven't explained to the investor how you're going to be different. So find a use case. Go take your product and get some people to try it, get some people to try and break it, use it in all sorts of different ways. There are lots of opportunities for niche messaging apps for different types of demographics. Keep doing that, and then you'll be fine if you can find that and then show investors, show how there's growth. Think of it like Facebook. They got Facebook in Harvard, and people were using it in Harvard, and that was great. It was fantastic. Do the same thing. Show how you've dominated a niche and you've gotten user traction, and investors will pay attention because you're young guys. You know what the next generation wants. Show us how the young workers, the Gen Zs of the world, want to use messaging apps and put something in different other than just AI washing and trying to sell it to companies filled with boomers who aren't going to understand anyway. Give me something different. This founding team, both of you have the potential to do so. I want to encourage you. Even though I've been harsh with you on the deck, I want to give you the reality so you go back to the drawing board and create something special that people will love to use, and then show that to me, show that to investors, and you'll be fine. You have bright careers and futures ahead. The final deck, I did something special in here. This is Prana. We make science-based fitness and health optimization accessible to health enthusiasts. I'm going to say this deck was actually really good. I understood what this founder was trying to do. It was a great story. But I'm going to spare you going through the whole thing because it's pretty much a repeat of everything else. But let me show you what I did super quick. Here's the problem slide. 65 million U.S. health enthusiasts can't afford medically supervised health optimization, spending over $6,000 annually on do-it-yourself approaches. This leaves them vulnerable to widespread health misinformation and ineffective products and services. The problem is, too confusing, too much inside information, and could be simplified. Here's my suggestion. 65 million health-conscious Americans spend over $6,000 yearly on DIY health solutions because they can't afford professional guidance, making them susceptible to bad advice and ineffective products. Notice how I got rid of the word health optimization. I don't know what that means. And I've narrowed it down just very simply to health solutions and how much money they spend. I like the fact that the founder shared the size, the scope, and the severity of the issue. The severity is making them susceptible to bad advice, ineffective products. It's a waste of money. I get it. I've seen it on YouTube all over the place. Now, here's the background of the founder. And while I appreciated the story, this founder has expertise in terms of being a health optimization coach for CEOs and executives around the world. I dig that. That's awesome. That's going to be great when you're doing a live pitch. I was coaching the executives at General Electric, and this is what I noticed. I totally understand. That's super cool, but you don't need to have this slide right up front. You might as well just go problem, solution, figure out how to weave this into the team slide, but definitely tell the story in the live pitch. I want to encourage this founder. You've got the goods. You got the domain expertise. I really appreciated how thoughtful this deck is and how you approached it, but let's look at another change that I made to this deck. The solution is we combine data-driven health with AI agents to automate health optimization, making science-based health optimization affordable and accessible to health enthusiasts. You see how many times we said health optimization here, and we say health so many times, AI agents, so much inside language into your industry, and an AI agent, exactly what is that? We don't have to explain that right now, but if you put a confusing word AI agent, it's not a ubiquitous enough term that all investors understand. So I took the liberty and I suggest this. Prana is an AI app that gathers user data to provide validated expert advice and product recommendations at just 10% of the cost of typical DIY health solutions. You see what I did here? Usual. If something is slow, manual, and expensive, the solution better be fast, automated, and cheap. And since we're spending $6,000, that was the original price. So it was $6,000 on DIY. That's a complete waste. And I know the founder was going to charge $600 or $50 a month for this. That's a 10x solution. That's the reason I said 10% of the cost. And that's what investors are looking for. You can disrupt the marketplace with a 10x solution. So if you say in your problem, users are spending $6,000 and you can show in your solution that it only takes $600 for the same result, bam, that is a startup that investors want to invest in. Now, through the rest of the deck, there are the similar problems that we saw in the other pitch decks. But I took the liberty, because this deck was pretty good and I really liked the founder, of making suggestions of simplifying problem solution. I hope you like this pitch deck deep dive. Let me know in the comments if you want me to do more deep dives of big, massive chunks of pitch decks like this, or you like the one-at-a-time format. Thanks for checking this out. I'll see you in the next video.